People that made impacts. I mean, Mike initially was impactful as far as just like, I learned the sales process. Anything by Jim Rohn. I learned a tremendous amount from him. Like a lot of my philosophy comes from Jim. Really, Tony Robbins, like a mentor. Tony Robbins worked for him for 4 years. I went to a couple Tony Robbins events that were really impactful for me. The two that were the most impactful were Date with Destiny and Business Mastery. Business Mastery really changed my thinking. He brought a technologist on stage and I saw like what was, it was like wild what was already happening at that time. Yeah, and then the rest are like books, like that I've never met them in person, but they've mentored me from a distance, you know what I mean? Like Robert Kiyosaki with Cash Flow Quadrant or Rich Dad Poor Dad, that really had a big impact on my thinking. The book Quantum Leaps, or U Squared, it's not Quantum Leaps. Yeah, U Squared. The fundamental understanding that harder work just leads to incremental gains. And that's the thing that those people in that group that you were in don't understand. Because harder work just leads to like you doing 10 more deals, 15 more deals, 20 more deals, whatever it is. But quantum leaps, going from one place to another, like 10xing, that comes from different strategies, different approaches, different techniques, different vehicles.
Right.
I was texting somebody today, like 3 years ago, I was selling 150 to 180 homes a year, working 70 hours a week, missing out on other areas of my life. And now I'm sitting in a Rolls Royce on my way to do an event, and I work Monday through Thursday and have 179 agents in the organization. It's because I changed my mind about certain things. So there's been multiple people, and the majority of them have not been. I learned a lot from Pete Vargas about speaking, like how to structure a talk. So that way it has a high degree of probability of conversion. I learned a lot from social from Ryan Pineda, because I've been in his Wealthy Creator program for the last, 8, 9, 10 months. And that's really helped. I've learned shit from Jose too, like watching him do what he was doing. It's happened both ways. And that's a really cool relationship, because a lot of times sometimes people's egos are too big where they don't allow that to happen. But yeah, I learned watching him with what he was doing in social, and that's what caught my eye, because we're both very competitive. And I was like, this fucking guy, like, what's he doing?
It's funny. There's a funny story. I was like, I think he had more followers than me at the time on social. Yeah. And then I told him, hey, bro, I'm going to catch up to you. And he goes, by the time you get to where I'm at, like, I'm going to be already a step ahead. And whenever people say stuff like that to me,
he gets charged up, bro.
Damn, bro. I'm like, it pumps me up for some reason, and it drives me. So then I started like taking social seriously. And I think that was one of the things that, like, I told him, I'm like, hey, look, I had already joined EXP. I'm told him, this is the vision. We're going to build a leadership team. And then I'm going to blow up on social media. And then a lot of people are going to be hitting me up, and I'm going to need leaders to basically help me build this large organization. And I think when he saw, and I don't know if this to be true, when he saw that I actually started like following through on that.
Yeah.
He basically was like,
okay,
he's serious about this,
Yeah, right. I think that's true.
Yeah? You think so?
Yeah, I think that's true. And then I just had to have a conversation with Lars where he could help me to understand the model, because I'm the type of I don't say I'm the type of person because I'm defining myself, but what's true for me is that like, I want to understand it. I want to like understand what it is. And I needed to make sure that it was not just good for me, but it was good for other people, for everybody. And once I got clear on that, then it was a million miles an hour. And through evolving over time and through all of the evolutions that I did, what it allowed me to do, another one is Hermosi. Bro, that guy's spot on, bro. He's fucking solid. He knows his shit inside and out. And his explanation of the opportunity ladder, combined with the 4 forms of leverage that I learned from Naval in his book, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, all of those things like coalesced for me to really be able to let go of selling real estate in high volume and put all of my time, energy, and effort into what we're doing now.
Things that compound.
Things that compound. So the only things I do now are things that compound, which are social and agent attraction, because they get bigger as time progresses. So this month, 35 agents onboarded, but I personally brought 4 to the company. Like, imagine taking 4 listings and like, what is that? 31 more show up. That's dope, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think you can you can spend a whole career preparing for one opportunity. And I believe that's what I've been doing. I spent 17 years preparing to do this. But yeah, bro, I'm just like a shortcut to the library. Like, all of these people are like, Imagine sitting next to Bill Gates and he's like, yo, I'm on a plane with you and I'm going to teach you everything that I know, all my mistakes, all my wins, and it's going to cost $35. Would you be like, nah, it's a little too much? One of my favorite biographies is Washington, A Life. Won the Pulitzer Prize for biographies. It's about George Washington. Bro, that shit was like, it's the biggest book I ever read. It was probably like 1,100 pages, but it was really impactful because I didn't really understand like why, Washington's like,
Washington.
yeah. You read that book, you understand very quickly. You're like, oh man, this dude was exceptional, bro.
Why was he Washington?
His men like really loved him for a couple of reasons. One is like he always had this with back to what we were talking about at the table as far as like responsibility versus rewards. He always had the same provisions as the men that he was leading. So if the men were sleeping in the mud, he slept in the mud. If the men were eating shitty food, he ate the shitty food. And he also always led from the front.
And he had a white horse.
A white horse, bro. So like everybody knew who the leader was. Like he wasn't hiding from anybody. And there was a story in the book, which is wild, where they were in a battle and like they had this commander went down. And when the commander goes down, everybody else like runs away. And Washington sees this from afar and he gallops over, like in the middle of a battle. He gallops over on his big white horse. So everybody knows he's the guy. He catches all the people retreating. He's like, where are you going? You need to go this way. And he leads them back into battle. Right? How many people that could have become an absolute leader, like an absolute like monarch, basically, have absolute power, abdicate and give it back? They kept wanting him to be president. He's like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. Twice. Second time they had him, he didn't want to do it. They talked him into it, like, look, this shit's going to fall apart. The other thing that was interesting about, and then the third time he's finally like, no, it's enough. Like, I'm not doing this anymore.
They wanted him to be president for a third term?
Yeah. A fourth. They wanted just to keep going. And he was just like, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. There needs to be new leadership, right? The other thing I thought was really interesting about that book is just how close we came to losing. Like how much of a ragtag group of like, they didn't have they didn't have equipment. They didn't have like the right shit. Like they totally should have lost. How close it was to them losing. But it reiterates that everything rises and falls on leadership.
You know, it's funny. For a while, I never read any books. And I would just learn everything about books from him. I would just be around. I'd be like, oh, that like George Washington did this.
You get the cliff notes from me, bro.
I would. And it was helpful because it would change the way that I would think, you know?
Yeah. We only need 12% to make this company go. You guys know we revenue shared $202 million last year. Does everybody know that number? $202 million.